Man of many skills. Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Joe Bob.
That is actually her name, Joe Bob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Joe Bob. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today it is February 1st, the start of Black History Month. Finally, a month where we get to celebrate Black history for some reason and don't just incorporate Black history as a part of American history as a whole. But that's a whole different topic that we won't get to right this second, or probably ever. But thanks so much for tuning in. A lot to get to. And by a lot, I mean like a lot of stuff to get to. Ayanna Pressley is complaining about Walgreens being racist. Ilhan Omar, also a squad member, wants to attack El Salvador, I think, and is pushing the Secretary of State to do so, or at least create sanctions there, which is a weird thing. Big Fani, the DA in Fulton County who's prosecuting Donald Trump, had some audio leak that was quite interesting. Zuckerberg, at a congressional hearing, stood up and called the bluff of another political stunt to push his own stunt. Holy cow, so much to get to, so little time. First, I want to get to this because I think this is one of the more interesting things, that when you have, this is actually multifaceted. I was going to say when you have bad policies, in order to defend those bad policies, if you have no defense, you fall back on the race card or the gender card or whatever. That's what generally happens when you have bad policies, but this is a multifaceted thing. I'll be honest enough, intellectually honest enough to say that. This multifaceted problem that is occurring across the country is deemed racist by Ayanna Pressley, a squad member and representative from, I believe, the Boston area. Now, I want to play the video of her talking on the congressional floor about how Walgreens closing in a neighborhood that is predominantly Hispanic and black, I think, is racist. And obviously we'll get to why what she said is idiotic. But, again, the thing I'll throw in there is that it's not entirely a policy thing as it would be like in San Francisco. But let's watch this. Watch this clip of this might as well be a sarcastic Babylon Bee stand-up routine that Ayanna Pressley gave in the well of Congress. Watch this.
Mr. Speaker, Walgreens is planning to close yet another pharmacy in the Massachusetts 7th, this time on Warren Street in Roxbury, a community that is 85% black and Latino. This closure is a part of a larger trend of abandoning low-income communities like the previous closures in Mattapan and Hyde Park, both in the Massachusetts 7th. When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community, and they take with them baby formula, diapers, asthma inhalers, life-saving medications, and of course, jobs. These closures are not arbitrary, and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination. That is why I joined with Senator Markey and Warren to demand answers from Walgreens CEO. Why was there no community input, no adequate notice to customers, and no transition resources to prevent gaps in health care? Shame on you, Walgreens. Having a website with talking points about health equity and underserved communities is not enough. Walgreens is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that needs to put their money where their mouth is and stop divesting from black and brown communities.
All right. The silliness notwithstanding, a lot of stuff she said there was kind of somewhat interesting outside of the just blatant, flat-out lies. I think she said that Walgreens has done nothing to advise people on where they're going to get their prescriptions. Yeah, they did, though. That's just factually inaccurate. And then leaving the communities. First and foremost, again, we don't need to reiterate this as much as I think our lefty friends need to hear it. But business is business. And I don't know if Ayanna knows this, but the art of making money doesn't see color. It doesn't see even socioeconomic status. It sees money. So a couple things have to be true here if she's going to make the claim that Walgreens is leaving because they're racist, which is effectively what she's trying to say in a much longer screed. First thing that you have to assume that is true is that Walgreens and all other pharmacies are just doing fantastically financially. They are head and shoulders above all the other businesses in the world, and they are doing so good financially that they can pick and choose who to do business with because they have too much money. They're overflowing with money. And because they are overflowing with money, that allows them the ability to say, okay, we've got too much money here. Let's go after Black and brown communities and close stores there, which of course is a ridiculous thing to assume or even mock up an assumption in your head. The second thing would have to be that they don't like making money. If you're going to say that, well, they're closing these pharmacies in these areas, doesn't matter what the area is, you have to assume then that they want to do that. If you know anybody who has a business that is operating anywhere, not even in the US, but on planet Earth, and they have several locations, go ahead and ask them, hey, do you want to close one of your locations? No. It's the answer. Anybody who's running a business anywhere, the people running the company at the corporation level, the shareholders that are invested in the company, the employees that work at the company, nobody wants to close businesses. And yet, businesses close. Why is that? Is it because they want to do it? No, we've just made that clear. Oh, it's because it's not sustainable. This is a bigger part of an overall kind of revamp of this pharmacy model, which I think in some ways is a little bit scary, but also change is inevitable, and this is what's going to happen is just going to happen. This is from Forbes. Rite Aid, Walgreens, and CVS have, over the last 2 years, said they'll close more than 1,500 stores, the Washington Post reported, as experts say that minority communities, I'm not even going to read that sentence. That was BS. I don't know why I put it in my little notes there. The large chains have struggled in recent years. Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy in October. Walgreens stock plummeted last week after the company cut its quarterly dividend, and CVS has cut more than 1,100 stores since 2018, amid greater competition from Amazon and Walmart, and staffing shortages, according to the Washington Post. In other words, well, they're just closing stores everywhere. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it right now, there's a Walgreens. Oh, no, it's a Rite Aid. It was a Rite Aid that closed in my community. My wife and I wanted to go get thrifty ice cream, and we drove by, and the Rite Aid is just gone. So maybe, you know what? Maybe it's racism. Maybe they knew that I, as a brown guy, wanted some mint and chip thrifty ice cream and decided, no, we're not going to let this minority buy from our store and give us money for a product. We're going to shut down the Rite Aid. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it is racist. But the bottom line here is nobody wants to close businesses. To suggest that they're closing businesses specifically because it's in a neighborhood that is black and brown is idiotic and stupid. Now, maybe you can look at the dollar figures there and say, well, this Rite Aid or this Walgreens specifically in this idiotic screed in front of the house, maybe they didn't do as well financially there. And like we mentioned earlier, Walgreens does not want to close stores. If the stores were making money and if it were profitable and it was worth their while to do business there, they would stay open, regardless of who is buying from their stores. Anyways, that's probably enough of that. We got so much to get to that we might as well just move on. But that's that. Headline here, I guess, is squad member is dumb. Speaking of other things that happened on Capitol Hill yesterday, I thought this was fascinating from so many different angles. And I'm going to ask you to hold multiple things in your head at one time. This is what kind of conversation and dialogue we have here. Sometimes not everything is this person is evil or this person is bad. And sometimes there's multiple layers of things being done that are fascinating and interesting. First of which is Mark Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill testifying in front of Congress. I've said this a number of times. I'm not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't think anybody is a fan of Mark Zuckerberg. And guess what? Congress, actually in this Senate committee hearing, knows that the majority of people are not fans of the big tech giant platforms. So Zuckerberg goes to testify in front of the Senate in a Senate hearing, and Josh Hawley starts to take some shots at him, appropriately so. And again, this is not in a defense of Mark Zuckerberg at all. But the biggest issue that Congress has, well, actually the American people have, is the damage that is being done to the younger generation, but also the older generation through social media platforms. There was a scathing piece, I want to say it was in the Wall Street Journal, but I can't remember, about how Facebook, and therefore Instagram and WhatsApp and all of the other properties that Mark Zuckerberg's Meta company owns, use their algorithms, or at least tune their algorithms to send people exactly what they want, including people who are wanting terrible things, like pedophiles. If a disgustingly minded person scrolls through and looks at stuff that is awful, Facebook, the algorithm, Meta's algorithm with whatever platform they're using, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of that, will then send more of the disgusting stuff to the disgusting person. Now, that's clearly bad. Nobody is arguing that that is bad. And Zuckerberg should have to answer questions for that kind of crap, especially when they're going to hide behind Section 230, which pretty much absolves them from any wrongdoing as a quote-unquote platform instead of a publisher. But we won't get into the minutia of that right now. But a very interesting thing happened on the PR front. Again, let's leave the Meta is an evil big tech corporation over here. Let's just put that there and keep it there. And go strictly to the PR side. It's pretty obvious and clear if you follow Zuckerberg, not necessarily even follow him, but if you use any of the platforms, it's pretty evident that somebody over there is trying to involve him in a PR push to brighten his image. The guy is still in his 30s. He's 39 years old, which is crazy to me, I think. But they're trying to make him not as hated, which is understandable. But that means there's a PR war going on constantly. And when there's a PR war, one, Zuckerberg and Meta are relatively new in this game. The senators on the committee are doing this all the time. This is all PR for them. And if you're a senator and you know that everybody is not a fan of the big tech platforms and the big tech platform CEOs are going to be in front of you, you're going to hit them and you're going to hit them hard. And you're probably, from a PR perspective, going to come up with a stunt slash, I don't know, gotcha question that's going to make them look bad and make you look good, and you're going to play it on commercials, and it's going to get on the evening news in your local district or your state, wherever the senator's from, and everybody's going to like you and they're all going to hate them. Well, an interesting thing happened yesterday, and you've probably already seen the video of this, when Senator Josh Hawley, I believe of Missouri, was asking Zuckerberg some heated questions. And then he said, having gotten a bunch of justifiably upset parents and relatives of people who were effectively abused by the platform that Zuckerberg runs to sit in the audience. And Holly's big line was going to be, do you want to stand up and apologize to these people? And the expectation, I guarantee you, and I'm not hitting Josh Hawley, I'm a huge fan of Josh Hawley, but the PR stunt did a backflip. His expectation was for Zuckerberg, like pretty much everybody else in this world who is being questioned by a Senate or congressional committee, to try and avoid the noise and say, Senator, I would not, and just avoid all the questions. That's the norm, and that's what Josh Hawley was expecting. And he was expecting to be able to thrash Zuckerberg, saying, you don't even want to get up and apologize to these people? And then something crazy happened. Zuckerberg effectively called him on his bluff. And again, this is not an endorsement of Zuckerberg. This is an interesting PR battle. Watch this.
So you didn't take any action. You didn't take any action. You didn't fire anybody. You haven't compensated a single victim. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
This is kind of inaudible, so I'll read you what he said afterwards.
To go through the things that your families have suffered, and this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
You know, why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not be sued for this? Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't...
All right, okay. Again, we are not defending the actions of Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, but I love looking at things as a PR sport, right? Because did you catch all of the different things that were happening there? Josh Hawley knew that there were a bunch of parents who were justifiably upset at this guy sitting out in the audience, and he wants to land just a humdinger on Zuckerberg and says, do you want to apologize? And in 99% of the times, actually probably pre the Ivy League professors saying that, no, calling for the extermination of Jews is totally fine. Pre that, Holly would have gotten his punch landed. But what seemed abundantly evident is that Zuckerberg and his PR team saw that haymaker coming, and he actually stood up and actually said something to him. I'm not really going to give him credit for the apology because I don't believe anything that he says. But from a PR standpoint alone, it's a masterstroke. Which, again, I realize this might be a difficult thing to kind of take in, of like, all right, we hate Zuckerberg, but this was a good move, but we still don't like him. That doesn't mean he's good at this, but it is fascinating to see. It's like, imagine you're rooting for your favorite sports team, and your favorite sports team is playing your least favorite sports team, and you hate that sports team. And then all of a sudden, the team that you hate does something magical. I don't know. The guy, you say you're watching an NBA game, does a drop kick from the other free throw line on the other side of the court, and it goes all the way across the court, and one of their players alley-oops it in. You're like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. And I realize there's a lot of people out there going like, what are you talking about? Like, how is this an incredible thing? Well, because it just doesn't happen. And in order to plan for something that doesn't happen, you have to take a risk. Holly obviously was taking a risk, probably a much lesser risk by asking a question, and then got called on the bluff. And I think from the PR standpoint, just looking at it from a PR standpoint, in terms of having a PR battle, the Zuckerberg team was prepared for it and delivered appropriately. In case you wanted to hear what he said, I'm sorry, Zuckerberg says this, I'm sorry for everything you have all been through. No one should go through the things your family has suffered, and that is why we invest so much, and we are going to continue doing industry-wide efforts to make sure no one has to go through things your family had to suffer. Again, like, this is not a defense of Zuckerberg. It's not a defense of Facebook and their evil algorithms that push. It's responsible for terrible things. And this is not at all, I can't make that clear enough. This is not at all an endorsement of that. But if you're going to counter a political stunt with a PR stunt, to have this sort of thing prepared where you don't admit guilt but still do the thing the senator is trying to goad you into, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating world out there. I don't know. I probably get too wrapped up in this, and probably most of you don't care about it at all, but I am always fascinated with the art of public relations, I guess. My goal, I think I've said this before on this show, my goal is to be the White House press secretary, to weasel my way into be the White House press. I will be the snarkiest, most sarcastic White House press secretary the world has ever seen. I think my best bet is, I won't throw any names out. I know some people that I could see in the foreseeable future, them being, 20 years down the road, deciding to run for president, getting into the office. I don't think I'd be the first one, but, press secretaries last, a year or two? And then they move on to go make a gazillion dollars hosting a show on somewhere. And, I think I can be that number 2 press secretary that, was Sean Spicer Trump's first press secretary? I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But, that's the dream job. That's the goal at some point. Mostly because I love the PR that goes into all of this. Where do we go to? Oh, geez. All of this other stuff is just bad news. I don't like this. Yeah, but what are you going to do? Well, this is terrible. So maybe you were having fun following that PR bonanza. This is going to get you good and pissed off. So, well, at least we're not doing it on a Friday, because Friday would be... Friday's more of a fun day. It's a lighthearted day. We kind of make a lot more jokes, and we watch a lot more silly videos of TikTokers saying dumb things on the internet. So that's why we're doing this now. One word for this. One word, and I'd like this to be abundantly clear. Deportation. A couple words. Deport them all. And by them all, I'm not talking about the people that a bunch of your lefty folks are going to put in my mouth. I'm talking about all of the criminals that are consistently doing crime that are not here legally. All of those people, get them out. I have no problem saying that, especially after this video. If you haven't seen this, this is upsetting, and it should be upsetting. This is a bunch of illegal immigrants. I don't call them migrants, even though MSNBC had on one of their shows. To their credit, they said all of them should be in Rikers, but they said all of these migrants, we are losing the language war, and because of that, I refuse to use the language that they're using. These people are illegal immigrants. They've immigrated here illegally, which by definition is what this is, and then perpetrated a crime like this. This is a bunch of illegal immigrants pretty close to Times Square in New York City attacking 2 NYPD officers. And the most angering thing about this, I will tell you after this video. Watch this. No audio here. It's just... I think those guys, the NYPD guys, are trying to arrest someone, it looks like, and a mob of illegals descends upon the police officers, which, again, difficult to watch. Not going to say it's not. But ultimately, everyone gets away. The 2 cops are left on the floor. Everyone runs away. And that is the type of society that we're living in. And the thing that's going to be the most infuriating to you, but also probably not the most shocking or really surprising at all, is all of them, any of them who were arrested, were out on bail the next morning. Sorry, that's not even true. Without bail the next morning. Just released back into the open. I'm sure they had well, you need to show up at this date for your hearing in 2028. But of course none of them are going to show up. Who knows if he even gave them the right ideas? bottom line is they're back out on the streets, no repercussions whatsoever. And so if you're the type of person, I don't know if like any lefty people watch this stuff, but if I had a clip pulled of saying, deport them all, they'd be like, oh, great, look at this right-wing extremist. No. If you can watch that and come to a conclusion other than, no, they can't stay. And I think you're the crazy person. That's not a clip out of context. That is a, holy cow, what kind of society allows this sort of thing to happen? Let's move on to, let's go here, because this is actually really interesting. The squad versus El Salvador. Ilhan Omar is making her second appearance in this week's show, just overall. What did she say? What was it that we were all upset about 2 days ago? Oh, she gave a speech saying, "I am Somalia first." It turns out she also wants to, and I want to get my words correctly. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to read her tweet. This is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, again, who made news earlier this week by saying, I am a Somali first, a Muslim second, and no mention of being an American, even though she represents the American people in Congress. She tweeted this in regards to El Salvador, which is having an upcoming election. She said this: I led members of Congress in signing a letter to Secretary Blinken, Secretary of State, urging action on threats to democracy in El Salvador. Worded very carefully, very lawyerly. The State Department must review its relationship with El Salvador and defend democratic values. The Salvadoran people deserve free and fair elections without fear of repression. If you are unfamiliar with what's going on in El Salvador, I know I say this a lot. Okay, sorry, pause right here. There was somebody who came up to me in Twin Falls, Idaho. It said, I watch the show every day. I said, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry, I forget your name. She said, can you do one thing for me? Can you say fascinating? And I was like, oh, shoot. Yes, I will. And also, apparently, that's what I say most a lot. And since then, I've been like trying to catch myself. Use other descriptive words. But regardless, this is fascinating. What's going on in El Salvador actually is fascinating. If you don't know this, El Salvador effectively has a dictator. Nayib Bukele is the 42-year-old firebrand politician in El Salvador. And without going all the way into it, he ran as an independent, separate of the two predominant parties. They kind of have, what's it called? Arena and, it doesn't matter. Sorry that I forgot the names of the El Salvadorian political powerhouses. But it's like Republican, Democrat down there. They have two major parties that kind of run everything. This guy ran right down the middle, won the presidency, and then has been the most popular world leader by far since he's been in office. Now, here's the caveat. He's done a bunch of things that are very anti-democratic by our standards. He wanted more funding to police the entire country versus MS-13, and when the Supreme Court said, no, you can't take this money out of the monetary fund of the Central American Bank, he fired the entire Supreme Court and appointed his own Supreme Court. When the Constitution of El Salvador said you can only be president for one term, he said, F that, I'm running again. And now he's running for his third term. So when you look at the term dictator, he probably fits a lot of the characteristics that a dictator is. And also, according to pretty much all of the major polls outside of El Salvador, inside of El Salvador, he is the most popular leader in the world. That's just what's going on over there. He has like a 90% approval rating. Why? Because he got MS-13 out of El Salvador, not out of El Salvador, into jails. And he effectively has been a fantastic presence for the El Salvadoran people. Now, has he done things around the law? Yes, I am willing to say that. I will say a lot of what he does is very worrisome. And also, life is way better for people in El Salvador. The murder rate has gone down to below several cities in the United States of America, which is crazy. Actually, it might even be the U.S. as a whole. It was one of the highest, when this guy took over, it was the highest murder rate in the world, and now it's one of the lowest. Because he has been a no BS, we are going to crush the gangs, and we are going to win. And that's effectively what he's done. And also, he has displayed a lot of dictator-type tendencies. He's even tweeted himself. I think his Twitter profile, X profile, in the bio is like, world's coolest dictator. Which is like so internet and on brand. Anyways, all of that being said, Ilhan Omar, the devout Somali representative who happens to have a vote in Congress, is now urging and gathering signatures from other people in Congress and tweeting at the Secretary of State urging action meddling in El Salvadoran elections. Does irony, like, hurt anybody else? Like, I don't know about hurt, but I physically feel when irony is just too ripe. The same people in the same party, and we can go through the list of the people that signed it, but it doesn't matter. The same people that are like, Russia is interfering in our elections, foreign interference, Trump is a Russian agent, golden showers in a Russian hotel bedroom. All of that? The people that complained about foreign interference in the elections, which again, I don't want foreign interference in our elections, but the same people that are doing that are now calling for us, a foreign nation to El Salvador, to intervene in their elections. I don't know what action means, but she says, Secretary of State Blinken, I am urging action on threats to democracy in El Salvador. I don't know. I can't, I feel like I'm getting crushed with the irony. Is that crazy? I feel like that's crazy. What a wild, wild time. Now El Salvador is having its elections coming up in a couple days. Nayib Bukele, in hilarious fashion, tweeted back saying, shoot, I should pull it up. I rather than just characterize what he said, I should pull up his whole thing, and darn it, now I don't have it. It's gone. Bottom line is Nayib Bukele then quote tweeted that and said like, hey, U.S., please don't interfere as a foreign adversary in our elections. Now, he obviously can't threaten the U.S. with anything like militarily or even sanction-wise. Like, he doesn't care. But he is pointing out the supreme irony that exists when a Somali-first election interference propagator promotes election interference in a country where the leader is overwhelmingly popular. And then you have to wonder why. Why is she doing that? What business interest does she have, or her husband, who is now a consultant, have in El Salvador? I wonder. Maybe I'll look into that. But, oh, she's trending again. Oh, wow, yeah, a lot of people are talking about her. Jason Whitlock said, I don't want Ilhan Omar anywhere making any laws with any kind of influence over American laws. I don't even want her in the country. Okay, so that wasn't regarding the stoking the flames in... Okay, she's just trending because of her Somali allegiance. Anyways, isn't that nuts? El Salvador is you should do a deep dive. I'm talking to you. You should do a deep dive into El Salvador. It is freaking fascinating. Literally, the guy says, world's coolest dictator. Let's see. Let's go, where should we go next? That's a funny video, but we're not going to do that yet. All right, here, let's check this out. Well, yeah, let's go. This might rub some people the wrong way, and we've been doing that all day. We're just rubbing people the wrong way. We're holding two thoughts in our head at the same time. We're nuanced, and you know, we're trying to figure things out here. Taylor Swift, you heard of her? I don't know if you've heard of Taylor Swift. She's a musician who happens to be dating somebody on one of your football teams. I forget his name and the team that he plays for and whether or not they're going to the Super Bowl. But of course, no, everybody has heard about Taylor Swift constantly for the last 6 months, especially since she's been dating Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Here is where this story needs some attention. The conservatives, and I'm not necessarily calling people out like, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. Like, no, all I'm saying is, given the fact that Taylor Swift is one of the most prominent cultural movers and shakers, let's not be so quick to make her into a villain just for the sake of making her into a villain. Now, a lot of people are worried about the political angle of Taylor Swift. She endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. And to that I said, oh, I'd forgotten about that. And also, who here is surprised by that? Is anyone? No, I'm not really surprised at all. But it was just an endorsement. It wasn't really like a big thing. Didn't really matter at all. But given her heightened popularity and her ability apparently to influence a lot of people, especially in this country, I would caution people that don't want to see Joe Biden get reelected to push her so hard that she takes a bigger and more active role in politics. Because she can be dangerous. The most powerful political force, I think, in the country and probably the world is this woman right here. And I understand. A lot of people have had it. A lot of people are like, I don't want to watch her on my TV screen. I don't want to continue seeing her during every time out. That's fine. You can be irritated with that. But don't take it so far that it ends up being a bigger problem for us than we need. The Babylon Bee also had a pretty interesting pretty interesting headline that I thought hits this right on the nose with this whole Taylor Swift thing. Babylon Bee says this: Conservatives uncover Democrat plot to turn Taylor Swift into an international pop star and the Kansas City Chiefs into a dynasty so Swift could date a Chiefs player and leverage the collective media coverage to get Joe Biden reelected. If that satirical headline doesn't sum up a lot of the way conservative media is talking about this, I don't know what does. There's people saying that Taylor Swift is a psyop, which is, to this I say, let's keep our eye on the ball, folks. Let's make sure that we're running on issues and not just hating a pop star because she might disagree with us. Because the worst thing that we could do is get her to a point, or really, and this goes for really any celebrity, really, but this specifically here is what's making headlines. The worst thing we could do is get her to a point where she goes, okay, yeah, cool, screw you guys. We're going to get Joe Biden elected again. And we would have done that to ourselves. Bottom line is, it is a media phenomenon that is currently happening with Taylor Swift and one of the most popular football players in the country. And that's all it is. It is an entertainment story. And if we pretend that it's more than that, the likelihood of us screwing ourselves is so much greater. And I guess I should have put this as a caveat. I am a Taylor Swift fan. Her latest album I thought was awesome. And a lot of you might not like that. A lot of you might be like, you girly man. Like, no, I just like it. I think she's a fantastic lyricist. I think her music is very catchy. But none of that screed is coming from my like for Taylor Swift and her music. It instead is coming from, I'm worried that we're going to push her to actually get involved. Which scares me a lot. That's, well, yeah, we won't get to the other. Shoot, we still didn't need Nancy Pelosi's house. We got to do this girl who... We'll save that for tomorrow because that'll be a funny one. But that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around and tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a call on give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. I don't know why the music plays. How does that even happen? There we go. Appreciate you sticking around following any of your social media accounts. Just go ahead and type JOBOB pretty much anywhere. Tickets are on sale for our Corona, California show, which is March 16th, and then more tour dates to come. Working on getting to wherever you live. The TPUSA spring tour that I'll be on with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, I don't know when those dates will come out. But when they do, we will bring them to you here, and hopefully we will see you on the road there. So all that being said, have a great time with your day. I'm like trying to do two different things at once, so I can't talk at the same time. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.